So wrists, we can bend them. You can twist them. Go with me for a second on this one. This is not really a good wrist lock, but bend and twist. Now, the real magic in wrist locks is bending and twisting. Bend, we can get them to tap, but if I bend and twist, we get them to be tap and tall. What's going on, YouTube? This month at our local classes, we're working on joint lock control as the big topic of the week. Now, last week we talked a little bit about the conceptual idea behind arm bars. If you guys remember, we talked about utilizing lead and pain in terms of how that joint functions. Well, this week, we're moving down a joint to the wrist. Now, a lot of people are like, well, you can't use wrist locks in fights. Of course you can. Anytime somebody latches onto you and grabs onto you in some way, shape, or form, there's a wrist lock ready and waiting for you. It is definitely not feasible to snatch a wrist out of the air when a punch comes in, although I have seen it done in interesting fashions, but either way. That's not what we're going to be talking about. This is not a how-to video. This is the concept video. What and how do these things function? Why do they work? And what is the most basic way to think of it? If you're here for specific Japanese Jiu-Jitsu instruction, I'm that kind of geek too. We call this American Jiu-Jitsu, meaning it's a Japanese root, and we have Americanized it by incorporating that which makes the most amount of sense. But this is not a detailed video on, Shodan, Sandan, Nidan, Muchimori. It's not a detailed, this is how wrist locks work. So let's get into it. All right, guys, so we've talked last week about elbows, right? Elbows are very simple, what's called a hinge joint. They flex, they extend. At some point, they don't like going any further. Allison gets taller. That elbow is now at the extent of where it will go. Okay, wrists, very, very different. They have a fancy word called circumlocation. That's a really fancy word that means they roll. Okay, so what we're going to do with a wrist, really there's two choices with a third optional bonus. The one that you actually want is the third choice. So wrists, we can bend them. At a certain point, they don't go any further, and people tap from the pain, right, from the discomfort. You can twist them. Go with me for a second on this one. This is not really a good wrist lock, but at some point, it gets to the point where the person doesn't like it anymore, that wrist is distended, and they tap due to that. Again, what's our recommendation on tapping here? Don't tap when it hurts, tap when it is tight. Okay, that's just a safety thing from old guy who's done jiu-jitsu for a long time and is very creaky. Now, the real magic in wrist locks is bending and twisting. It almost doesn't matter which direction you go as long as you remember those two principles. So again, Japanese martial artists, so some of you guys will recognize bend and twist. Well, that's a cool one right there. I don't, Nidan something, I don't know. Doesn't matter. Bend, we can get them to tap, but if I bend and twist, we get them to be tap and tall. We like that. Fancy stuff over here, we bend the wrist the other way, backwards, and then we twist. And again, they tap, right? Last one, you can bend it backwards, they start to move, you change their spinal column, that's really cool. But if I bend it and twist it, you start to get really neat things from there, okay? Now again, this is not designed to be a detailed instructional video. In my mind, you gotta get on the mat for that, guys. I guess if anybody's curious online, if you have a specific question, don't hesitate. We geek out about this stuff all the time. We'll do a special video for you guys, I guess, okay? But this is about the principles, the concepts, right? If you understand the principle of an arm bar, Allison last week taught a drill where find an arm bar, right? Mm-hmm. I saw some brand new students very successfully coming up with arm bars. Does it matter what the name is if they've successfully found the joint lock? Not at all, right? Same too with wrist locks. How many wrist locks are there? I don't know, 7, 12, 109. Doesn't really matter what the names are. Bend, twist, or if you really know what you're doing, bend and twist. You get those principles down and you can find some really awesome ways to hurt people. Mm-hmm. So thank you very much for donating the wrist. I appreciate that. And for you guys at home, or mobile, I guess wherever you're watching this on YouTube, don't hesitate, guys. Obviously, give us any comments down below, questions that you have. Again, this is a conceptual video. It's an idea video, not a technique video. But give us a like if you like it. We appreciate that a lot. And let us know in comments down below stuff that you'd like to see in the future. Thank you guys very much.